This is Pondering Aloud with Danielle Roselle, and this essay is titled On Barney's Second Birthday. Tomorrow is my son Barney's second birthday, and I'm so excited to celebrate with him. While I always thought he had a lot of personality, it's been especially fun watching it take shape. His curiosity, always asking, "What's that, mommy?" His humor. Farts, burps, and silly sounds are endlessly funny to him. His initial shyness around people, and the way he becomes flirty once he's comfortable. He's also chill and likes hanging out, just being part of whatever's happening. Several people have asked me, "Do you have a hard time on his birthday? Or is there any part of you that's angry at him about what happened?" For those listening to this for the first time, I lost both my kidneys during his delivery. The short answer is no. Some people are surprised that I'm even asked these questions. I'm not. Just look at how TV, movies, and books portray birth trauma and postpartum mental health. Think The Babadook and The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Even this week, I watched a series on Paramount Plus called Little Disasters, where one of the main characters experiences a mental breakdown from a traumatic birth that triggers perinatal OCD and severe anxiety. In my mind, I've been able to compartmentalize Barney's birth from the trauma, the grief, and the ongoing reality of living with kidney disease. In many ways, that separation has served me well, though I recognize not everyone dealing with trauma can or should do it. I've also been intentional about addressing the mental health side of everything that happened. While I did struggle with some anxiety and depression as I adjusted to life with kidney disease, writing, talking with close friends, and therapy helped me process it. Here's the thing, I do carry anger, sometimes even rage, but not at Barney. My anger is towards my doctors for some of what happened to me during the delivery and after my hospital stay. That's why I have therapy. It's my space to get it out, to process it. I've also done a lot of that work through my writing. It also makes me think of my friends who have struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety. It's real, it's brutal, and I have a deep compassion for it, especially when advanced maternal age, hormones, perimenopause, or medical trauma are layered in, along with the confusion of not knowing what is causing what. For me, my mental health focus has been a lot less about postpartum identity and more about surviving kidney disease and medical trauma. Maybe that redirected some of the typical postpartum struggles. I also wonder if my history played a role. I dealt with anxiety and depression in middle and high school, and those early experiences gave me a lot of familiarity with dark mental spaces. Between my clinical training as a social worker and years of being a spiritual seeker, I developed tools along the way because I never wanted to go back to the way I felt during that time in my life. I also know this, mental resilience can collapse instantly. Having tools doesn't mean they'll work when trauma hits. So when all of this happened, it was probably a mix of having some tools to draw upon, fatigue from my kidney disease, my disposition shaped by age and experience, and years of therapy that prevented extreme depression or anxiety. Still, I know compartmentalization is a coping mechanism, not a solution, and not something everyone can access. Many people can't separate the trauma from the child, the grief from the joy, and the body from the memory. And the books and films I mentioned exist because that reality is common, not rare, and give the space to explore human themes in exaggerated extremes. Interestingly, I want to write fiction someday with a protagonist that experiences postpartum depression. Not because it's my story, but because writing is where I explore the lives I didn't live, the darker parts of my psyche, and the different versions of myself I didn't become. While overwhelming postpartum depression hasn't been my story, There are parts of me that wishes it could have been instead of losing vital organs. My deepest, maybe darkest thought is, did losing my organs overshadow everything else? Could I not even access postpartum struggles because survival consumed everything? They're probably not connected, or maybe I could have experienced both, but I wanted to confess my thought anyway. But here's what I know for certain: I love my son, a love unlike anything I've ever experienced. Tomorrow he turns 2, and I wanted to mark this moment not with grief or anger, but with gratitude for making it to this milestone. So I'm ending this with a poem I wrote for him. The idea came from my writing coach, Brian Morgan, who gave me the prompt to begin every sentence with the words, I remember. For Barney on your second birthday. I remember seeing you for the first time, delighted by your little hands and toes. I remember when you looked at me, I noticed your squishy nose. I remember when you visited me in the hospital, looking like you've known me for years. And when I stared back at you, it brought me to tears. I remember when I came home after a 35-day hospital stay, I came to your crib crying, and you smiled right away. I remember the first time you rolled from your belly to your back, determined to do it over and over. I was so proud of you, I cheered, move over, Rover. I remember when you said your first word, Dada, I cried out in joy, then quickly quit, Mama, hoping you'd try. I remember when you sat up with our nanny Marcy assisting you, and then one day you did it by yourself. How it happened, I hadn't a clue. I remember when you first stood up, holding your diaper box tight. I cried out in amazement and in delight. I remember when you took your first step after practicing all day long. You finally let go, all brave and strong. I remember when you said your first sentence, all through the town. It wasn't just saying it, it was singing while jumping up and down. I remember the first time you said no and shook your head vigorously. It was the first time you started asserting yourself, the beginning of separating you and me. I remember the first time we took a bath together with my bathing suit on. You were so excited Mommy was in the tub with you. It was so much fun. I remember when you were born, when you turned 1, and now you're turning 2. Barney, you have no idea how much I love you. Thank you to all my paid subscribers for supporting this work. Your support makes it possible for me to keep sharing these reflections with you. I've also started a subscriber chat on Substack with simple prompts that you can choose to respond to. The prompt for this post is write an essay or a poem and start each sentence with, I remember. Thank you so much for joining me.